So this is on RJ Talks channel. It's titled U.S. Air Force conducts first airstrikes on cartel targets.
It is Tuesday, September 2nd, and the U.S. military striking cartel targets from Venezuela for the first time. All of this just breaking. President Trump saying these targets were from Venezuela.
When you come out and when you leave the room, you'll see that we just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat. And you'll be seeing that and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago. And our great general, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's been so incredible, including what took place in Iran, knocking out potential nuclear power for a long time to come. I think within a month they would have had it. We didn't do what we did. But he gave us a little bit of a briefing. And you'll see. And there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time. And we just, these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela. A lot of things are coming out of Venezuela. So we took it out, and you'll get to see that after this meeting is over.
Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Raising Cane, greenlighting the first airstrike on a Venezuelan drug cartel this morning, striking a drug vessel sent from Venezuela. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also confirming the U.S. military conducted a lethal strike, he says, against this Venezuelan drug vessel, that the ship departed from Venezuela before being blown out of the sea, posting on X just moments ago that the vessel was being operated by a designated narco-terror organization, and saying this is the reason the U.S. has boosted its wartime force in the waters off Venezuela to combat these threats, they said, from the drug cartels. And look, this coming.
Let me say this, because there are a lot of people who are claiming that this is all over the oil that's in Venezuela. And I'm not going to dismiss that. I'm not going to say that the oil doesn't necessarily play a factor. But with that said, I can't stand when I hear people act like the drug problem in the United States is not a real problem. Or I can't stand it when I hear people act like we should just let a free flow of drugs come across the southern border. Even to me, the idea of like legalizing drugs, to me, that is a loser mentality. There are people who have this mentality, well, people are going to do drugs anyway, so we might as well just legalize all forms of drugs. But let's keep in mind, there are a large number of people who the only reason why they don't do drugs is because it's illegal. That's the only thing stopping them. They're scared to go to jail. Jail, regardless of what y'all may think, is a great deterrent for many people. For example, there are plenty of times where people get on my nerves and I think about giving them a nice backhand. I keep my hands to myself because I understand that I am not built for jail. Shout out to the LGBTQ community, but I do not want to have to fight the ladies up off of me in jail. I do not want to be in there fighting for my life. I like lip gloss. Okay. I like pretty makeup. I like all of that, and I'm bougie about what I eat. So I can't eat any prison slop. So when people make me mad, I think about jail and I just remain calm. Okay. So with that said, jail is a great deterrent from many people trying substances that they would otherwise be trying if they had easier access to it. And for us to try to pretend, the narrative for so long has been the people that are doing them are going to be the same people that are doing them when they're legal, and other people are not going to try it. Use your common sense with that. To me, that's just a common sense thing. It's kind of like if you put candy, if you have a whole bunch of candy and sweet stuff in your house and it's not easily accessible to you, you're going to be more likely to eat all the candy and sweet stuff and snacks in your house if it's in your refrigerator versus if it's harder to access. So you have to think about at least illicit substances the same way. And I feel like taking the stance that we should just legalize this all, or at the very least, just allow a free flow of it into our country, that's already coming from a loser mindset and loser perspective. And it's not good for society. Honestly, guys, if you go to societies which I have been, where mass illicit substance abuse is the norm. Like people, for example, I've been in a country before where it's nothing for people to do tussy and stuff like that. Okay, what other type of behavior do you think comes with that? A lot of the times, that's when you get an increase in behaviors like sexual deviance. That's when you get a rise in unemployment. That is when you get a rise in things like just people doing things they wouldn't otherwise do had they not been under the influence of an illicit substances. So that's where you get the moral degradation of a society. And I feel like as Americans, part of the reason why we've been able to acquire the amount of wealth that we have and keep us, we're like a sober minded nation for the most part. Yes, there are people in our country that do indulge in illicit substances, and I feel like it's getting worse the more that we promote these kind of lifestyles. But for the most part, you know, America has been a hard-working society that's been very progressive and future oriented. And I feel like once you start engaging in these, you make these illicit substances normal over a massive population, people become lazy. They start striving for less, they become complacent. And I'm with Donald Trump, and he doesn't do any type of illicit substances. He's always talked about how he's against them. He doesn't drink. And like you don't get to a place that somebody like Donald Trump gets to, and you are constantly doing illicit substances. Now, I know there are some exceptions to the rule, but the majority of people, when they're smoking all the time and drinking all the time and popping Percocets and doing all these pills, they become lazy and complacent in life, you know. And not just that, the overdoses, the fentanyl overdoses are over control. So to act like we should just allow this to free flow across our border, that's already a defeatist mindset. And I would argue it's very anti-American. You know, the most important thing is our children. At the very least, our children don't need to be able to have access to these substances. Okay, let's continue.
After President Trump authorized kinetic force a few weeks ago on cartel positions, on assets, and key personnel, signing that secret directive 2 weeks ago. This is a big deal. The first time we've done so, that the U.S. has used military action, kinetic action on drug interdiction since 1989. Under President Bush Sr. was the last time we did this, when he ordered the invasion of Panama to arrest Manuel Noriega. For 35 years, the cartels have been allowed to just fester, expand. Not anymore. There's a new sheriff in town, and it's costing them billions. The cartels, costing the cartels billions of dollars in revenues. Watch.
There was a day. What is your mission on Earth based on your...
Okay, real quick. I'm sorry. I didn't see that y'all were in here. I wasn't looking at my comments. Hey, Sultry. Good to see you. What's up, Jamal? Got my regulars in here. 1 second, y'all. Gotta say hi to my people. Thank y'all. Hi, Caramel Coated Cutie. It's been a minute. Hi, Kevin. Trump isn't going to do anything illegal. No, I don't think I know he's probably not going to do anything illegal, or he's not going to do anything that he can't fight in court. I think they've been planning on this for a long time. Y'all got to understand, Trump and them have been planning what he's going to do way before he even got in office. So, of course, these are going to be legal battles because anybody can bring a lawsuit, right? But I don't think that he is doing anything that he doesn't know that he can't win in court. What's up, Will's Tumbling? Good to see you. Venezuela has low-grade oil. That is like tar. The Biden administration was buying oil from them. Wow. But why? I want to know why. Because it's been rumored that we have politicians in the back pockets of these narco traffickers. And when you think about what happened during the Biden administration, to me, that's the only thing that makes sense. For you to come in office and the first thing that you do is reverse all of Donald Trump's executive orders at the border. You basically open it. You allow a free flow for 4 years. knowing that there are children, because they know this. They know this better than the average American citizen. They know that there are children being trafficked across the borders. They know that the cartels are trafficking illicit substances across the borders. So for them to allow all that, yes, you cannot tell me that some of these politicians have not been compromised by the cartels. And if you think that the cartels don't have that kind of reach, you are sadly mistaken. Even in a lot of major cities in the southern states or the border states, yes, the cartel has major pull with the city councils and things of that nature. I remember in my city, there was a lawyer trying to prosecute some cartel members, and they were murked. Okay, out of there, out of there. This was in Dallas. They were out of there. The cartels got to them. Nobody went to jail for it. This is what the white man wants to get it into our community so we can be labeled criminals. Ain't no labels. I'm gonna show y'all these videos of Chicago. If I lived in Chicago, we're gonna talk about that later. But if I lived in Chicago, I would be begging for, call them the white man, the police, what you want to. If I'm living in Chicago and I have a child, especially like if I'm living in Chicago and I have my daughter, and I have to worry about these YNs sliding on their ops, let's not pretend like this isn't something they don't glorify. Yeah, y'all come get them. Come get them. Matter of fact, I'm snitching. I'm telling everything. What's up, D Mally? What's up? Yeah, they need to come on, because we're not able to do it. We can't do anything about them, so might as well bring the police in. Yep, come get them.
Your starseed type.
Where we had, 2,700 apprehensions, or 2,300 people on the ground in one area and another area. If you extrapolate out that data, we're really costing them over $1 billion, in their business model.
Jonathan Fahey is a former acting ICE director and former federal prosecutor, joins me now. Simply put, Jonathan, it looks like after years and years of just talk, the United States under the Trump administration is turning the screws on those who, one, try to poison us, but two, those who try to human traffic across our borders.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro warning over the weekend he's more than prepared, he says, to deal with the threats from the United States, responding by deploying 15,000 troops of his own along Venezuela's coast and their border region, specifically Colombia, saying over the weekend his military is ready for whatever Trump's planning, that they've long speculated.
It's the delusion for me. And let me tell you something. A lot of Democrats have been bashing Trump because he has been, I guess you could say, cozying up with Vladimir Putin. And he, in the process of these deals, they are making negotiations and the United States is making concessions. And I think that's in our best interest. Honestly and truly, I wouldn't be against Vladimir Putin maintaining all the land that he's taken from the Ukraine. What the Ukraine wants is they want us to have this kind of deal where they are not officially in NATO, but they get NATO protections. And Vladimir Putin is like, I'm not going for that. That's the same thing. So Vladimir Putin wants to keep all the land that he's taken that thus far. I believe Donald Trump is going to let him have all the land he's taken thus far because it's in our best interest. I'm going to tie it in with this. To me, the policy should be, because Russia is a superpower and they need to be respected the same way that we are respected, that they stay on their side of the world and we stay on ours. Why is that important? Well, whenever we are beefing and getting into it, what happens is we stick our nose in their business and then they stick our nose in ours. I'm recalling the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? And Russia has had positive ties with Venezuela. So if we can get them to back off of our side of the world, who is going to be there to protect Venezuela? Because honestly and truly, I don't care how many troops he has. No technology that they have can go against the might of the United States military. So this is a situation where Donald Trump is playing chess. He's thinking long term, and he's doing what he needs to do so that we can have our way on our side of the hemisphere.
U.S. would use naval forces off their coast as a distraction while invading from Colombia. Maduro delivering this warning to the United States.
Donald Trump, usted tiene que cuidarse porque Marco Rubio quiere manchar sus manos de sangre, con sangre suramericana, caribeña, con sangre venezolana. Lo quieren llevar a un baño de sangre y que su apellido, Trump, se manche de sangre por los siglos de los siglos. Si Venezuela fuera agredida, pasaría inmediatamente al periodo de lucha armada en defensa del territorio nacional y de la historia y del pueblo de Venezuela. Y declararíamos constitucionalmente.
Sir, y'all economy is in shambles. Can you even afford a war? Can you even afford a war? And that is why it is in our best interest to stop funding the Ukraine war. It is in our best interest. If Donald Trump is going to wage this war on our hemisphere, it is in our best interest to get out of Ukraine and stop funding them as quickly as possible. Okay. Jamal says Russia is, as Obama said, a regional power. Russia and China will get closer to Venezuela. I don't think so. Right. And this is why I don't think so. Again, I feel like Donald Trump is playing chess, not checkers. I feel like if this kind of situation was taking place under a different administration, perhaps what you are saying would be true. But with that said, I think we're going to pull out of Ukraine. I think that's inevitable. We're going to pull out of Ukraine. The situation with Taiwan and China, that would be like the major reason why we would even get into an armed conflict with Taiwan. What Donald Trump is doing is he's essentially thinking long term and pulling United States interest out of Taiwan. So if we manufacture those chips in the United States, which that is something that he has been working on, then it will not matter to us whether or not China does or does not invade Taiwan, because they'll be of absolutely no economic interest to us. So what I'm saying is we have to let it play out. What the Venezuelans are in no position to go to war with the United States. Absolutely not.